This movie's good, you guys. It's good. What's up, you guys? It's Jonathan Carter, and today we are going to be talking about the newest MCU movie, Thunderbolts.
We can find a way together.
Thunderbolts is the second MCU movie of 2025 following Captain America Brave New World, and I think it's the fourth entry in the MCU we've gotten this year with Captain America Brave New World, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, Daredevil Born Again, and now Thunderbolts. So after taking a pretty easy year off of 2024 with only Deadpool, Wolverine, and I think one or two other shows, the MCU is kind of back in full swing, course corrected with a lot of its material. Later on this year, we're getting the Fantastic Four in just a couple of months, and then a couple of other shows leading us to the end of 2025. And then Avengers Doomsday, and then Avengers Secret Wars, and other movies leading us into 2027, I believe. Earlier this year, like right at the top of the year, I did a ranking of the MCU movies and shows that I'm most excited for this year. I'll link that video somewhere up here. And Thunderbolts was pretty high up on that list. I think, if not top 3, definitely top 5. And I don't really know why, but I had a lot of hope going into this movie, as they were releasing the trailers, because the trailers look good. I'm a huge Florence Pugh fan. I think she's phenomenal. She was amazing in Oppenheimer, amazing in Black Widow. I also really like the character of the Winter Soldier a lot, and then you get Ghost returning that we haven't seen since Ant-Man and the Wasp, so I was really curious to see what they were going to do with her. And the premise itself of this movie just seemed really interesting of what do you do when the Avengers no longer exist in this universe? So let's bring in this kind of ragtag team that doesn't really belong together and see what happens. So that's an interesting area for the MCU to explore. And before we get into this review, please be sure to like and subscribe, you guys. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, all that. If you like podcast versions of reviews, I do those over on Spotify. This is going to be a mostly spoiler-free review, and then at the end, I am going to do spoilers, but I'll do a big section there. All that being said, without further ado, let's jump into the review. So, like I said right at the top of the video, this movie is good, you guys. It's actually genuinely very good. Don't get me wrong, it's by no means perfect. It still has some of that MCU humor quips that don't really land in MCU movies, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So, at the top of the movie, it catches us up with Yelena Belova, Florence Pugh, after we haven't seen her since the Hawkeye show, and then after the events of the Black Widow film, she's working with Valentina, and Yelena is basically the lead of this team. So at the start of the movie, you find that Yelena is not happy, she is depressed, and she doesn't feel like she has purpose.
There's something wrong.
And she's looking for something more in her life. She's looking for purpose. With that being said, this movie, in a lot of ways, is very fresh and new, specifically for the MCU. So this is the first movie, besides some things going on with Iron Man or things like that, that really delves into depression, mental health, mental illness, everything like that. And it has very informative, educated statements to make about mental health. So Yelena goes on one last mission for Valentina before she kind of course corrects what she wants to do with her life, and it leads her to find John Walker, U.S. agent from the Falcon and Winter Soldier, the kind of dark Captain America that would be if Tommy Lee Jones' character from the first Avenger got his say of who he wanted to be the super soldier, the bully, tough guy instead of Steve Rogers. That is U.S. agent. So again, he's dark. He killed somebody, executed them publicly in the Falcon and Winter Soldier. He's a morally gray, not great person, and has also been doing secret ops for Valentina, you find out. Also runs into Ghost from 2018's Ant-Man and the Wasp. We have not seen her since then. Also has been working for Valentina, and then also Taskmaster, and who, again, we haven't seen since Black Widow. Not going to get into spoilers here, but they end up working together, forming this team, also along with Red Guardian, who joins them. Eventually, the Winter Soldier comes in, and then you also get Bob.
Who are you?
I'm Bob.
who is rather hilarious and ends up becoming Sentry. And again, we'll kind of get into that in spoilers. There's a lot to talk about here that is difficult to avoid spoilers. Like I said, this movie is so fresh for the MCU, and it feels like the biggest compliment I can give it is it feels like it actually has a reason to exist, instead of Marvel just being like, yeah, we're going to make movies because we're the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We have to keep generating content to put out, whether that's movies, shows, or whatever, to kind of fit into the schedule. Thunderbolts, while it does like build what's next for the MCU, it feels like the creative team behind this, a lot of it being from A24, they released that really awesome trailer with like all the A24 credits and things like that, and that like fire music that they had in there. Total banger of a trailer. What was I even saying? The creative team had a story to tell, and they took all of these individual characters that would not work together as a team and developed them in the same way to be team players and give them plot arcs, and then also further the overall story of the cinematic universe and make it feel connected again. That Brave New World earlier this year kind of did, like it made the universe feel connected, but to much varying degrees. In that movie, I think Captain America Brave New World is like the definition of mid. Thunderbolts is actually really good. And like I said, everything about it feels fresh. You get really awesome action sequences with, like, obviously there's a lot of super soldiers here, but like Ghost's power is very interesting, the way they use that in this movie. Sentry's powers become very interesting and are pretty new for the MCU. And then, like I said, this movie has a lot to talk about with mental health, and where it goes further in the story and how that's developed and explored was really, really nice for an MCU movie. So without really getting into spoilers, this movie is dark. It covers a new corner for the MCU. It builds the building blocks for the rest of the universe while also feeling very standalone and fresh and inventive. And that's not an easy thing to do when you're 30 movies into a cinematic universe that started way back in 2008. So that's a very high praise and compliment to give this movie. Now, as we jump into spoilers, skip to this time frame if you don't want to hear anything about spoilers. Get out of here if you don't want to listen to spoilers. Where this movie goes, as Sentry is explored, Valentina's character, like, you know, using him to be this massive weapon, and gets into the void and the creepy things he does with, like, the people of New York, turning them into shadows. That whole scene there at the end where the Thunderbolts come together and they individually, like, get through their past trauma. Yelena with being a Red Room assassin, Bucky with his obvious history, or Red Guardian, John Walker not being a great person, Ghost not being a great person. They have their individual journeys, mostly focused on Yelena, but then they come together at the end and they help Bob out of his depression, out of his loneliness, while simultaneously helping themselves out of that loneliness. That's like a really beautiful thing in a superhero movie, and it actually made me tear up. I don't know the last time I teared up in a Marvel movie or superhero movie, probably Spider-Man, just because, like, when No Way Home, when all the Spider-Man came back together, just seeing Tobey on the screen again definitely, like, made me tear up. And then right there at the end, we get the Thunderbolts asterisk reveal, the new Avengers. So I thought this was going to be revealed to be the Dark Avengers, but honestly, I think the new Avengers sounds great. And then we get that really insane second post-credit sequence of, you see them as the new Avengers. They kind of are still, again, you have Captain America kind of fighting, I guess, with Bucky, of, like, Captain America wanting to assemble the Avengers after Brave New World, but also, like, why is he not doing that? Why is he fighting Bucky, like, morally, not physically, but, like, morally over who leads the Avengers, when they just had a great conversation in Brave New World? So I'm sure that will lead into Doomsday, and we'll have these, like, two factions of Avengers. But you still get that, like, that dynamic where you see, like, these characters, again, don't work so well together, but they are making a team effort and leading themselves as the new Avengers. And then the big reveal from the Avengers Tower, they get this notification that this spaceship is coming in, like, entering Earth's orbit or atmosphere, and as the ship turns over, you see the Fantastic Four logo with that, like, really awesome theme music playing that they have for the Fantastic Four score. Genuinely, you guys, I am so excited. I thought that was, like, the perfect kind of post-credit sequence to tie this great movie together, like leading it into what's next. The Fantastic Four is coming out in 2 months, I believe, like at the end of July. And I'm just genuinely happy with how this movie turned out and where it went. And that is something I'm very happy to say about a modern new MCU movie. So, the verdict, yes, this movie definitely has those MCU quips that don't always land and some weak dialogue here and there that again doesn't really work or pan out to what it's trying to do. But the bones of this movie, the structure of it, are so incredibly strong. The movie is so creative. It explores new corners for the MCU. It's dark. It deals with mental illness, addiction, feeling of loneliness, not belonging, while also being funny, creative, and fresh for this 20-year-old almost cinematic universe. Now, before we wrap this up, there are 2 post-credit sequences at the end. There's a mid-credit sequence, and then there is a very long post-credit sequence at the end that teases what's next for the MCU. Now, lastly, what do you need to watch before seeing Thunderbolts of all these new members coming together? In all honesty, I would say you don't really need to watch anything leading into the Thunderbolts because they explain where these characters are so well, and they give you enough information in the movie without feeling like exposition to kind of get you on board with what exactly is happening. So if you were to watch something before, I would say maybe Black Widow would be the most helpful because it introduces Red Guardian and Yelena and kind of leads into where they are today. But you don't really have to watch anything going into this movie to understand what's happening. And that's also, again, very impressive for a long-running cinematic universe. So, all that being said, I'm going to give the Thunderbolts an 8 out of 10. I was pleasantly surprised with this movie, you guys. On a see it, stream it, or skip it, see it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Because there's spoilers in this video, you can put spoilers in the comments. What you guys, did you love it? Did you hate it? Is it right there in the middle for you? Thank you guys so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe. If you wanted to see my most interested MCU ranking, I'll put that right here. And I'm also currently running through the Mission Impossible movies. I'll put the playlist right here leading into the newest Mission Impossible film this May. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, I will see you all on the next one.